Hello, and welcome to 2023, and welcome to the first lunar event of 2023, the full moon in the moon is in Cancer and the sun is in Capricorn. That happens today on the west coast of California. It's around 3:08 p.m. At the beginning of the year, there's usually a tendency in astrologers and everyone to look at the year ahead, for astrologers to talk about what the year ahead means for everyone and for the different signs. And it's one of those times when it's a solar cycle. We set intentions for the next 365 and a quarter days, and intentions, resolutions, whatever. As human beings, most of the time, we don't really think in solar cycles. We tend to think more in lunar cycles. There's there's study that shows that if you can maintain a habit for 21 to 28 days, that habit will stay with you, which is, again, a lunar cycle, roughly. And most of the time, when people get readings, whether from someone else or when they do them for themselves, it might talk about the long-term cycle, the years ahead, but it will definitely also talk about what's happening now and how that's going to manifest in the next few weeks, the next 3 weeks, the next 3 months, that kind of period of time. So the lunar cycles are important. We tend to function kind of in lunar cycles. If you're having a hard time this particular year, letting go of 2022 and kind of moving ahead with some sense of vigor and purpose and direction in 2023, there's some explanation when you look at the lunar cycles. For example, it's a full moon right now. A full moon is an apex experience. So it's an apex experience of something that's been building for the past 2 weeks. So letting go of the holidays, like this is kind of like, the peak of it right now. And then, we begin a new lunar cycle in 2 weeks with the new moon. This particular full moon, and I should just interrupt myself to say that I will talk some about the year ahead, as well as talking about this particular lunar cycle. The aspects right now are actually generally quite good and beneficial or mild. And I'm sure that some of you are experiencing that, but some of you may not be and may be wondering why this time of year is it seeming so difficult, other than just thinking about like the end of one year, the holidays, the year ahead, all that kind of thing. Although there are many beneficial aspects, many easeful aspects being made in this new moon, there is one planet that is not aspected by any planet, and that planet is Saturn. And Saturn is the heavy of the zodiac. Saturn's the teacher with the stick. And the good news about Saturn is that when Saturnian lessons tend to be kept, like when you learn the lesson that Saturn has for you, that's it. You don't have to keep relearning it, as opposed to some of the other astrological teachers. But the difficulty right now with Saturn unaspected is that it's not quite pinned down. So unless Saturn is making, and Saturn is at 23 degrees Aquarius right now. So if you happen to be a person whose birthday is an air sign, Aquarius, yes and no, but Libra or Gemini, and your birthday is a little bit after the middle, but not quite at the end of the sign, like then Saturn is making a favorable aspect to your sun, and you might be handling this much more easily than others. However, if Saturn isn't making a positive aspect to something in your chart, it can kind of feel like it's raining difficulty. It's raining like these kind of like harsh lessons without any real sense of like why or where it's going. It's just kind of like pervades everything. And that sense of sort of heaviness and restriction and a certain kind of, well, a Saturnian temperament is said to be, a little dour or depressed or negative. So you might be feeling some of that. So one of the challenges that faces everyone is how do you take that like kind of unreined Saturnian aspect, that kind of like heaviness or difficulty, and how do you give it a little bit of limitation, or how do you play with it? How do you maybe give it a place to land, give it a place to be in your life without like letting it kind of overwhelm everything? And then also everything changes, and eventually Saturn will not continue to be unaspected. So not taking it all as seriously, as there might be a tendency to feel like everything needs to be taken very, very seriously right now. And that may be how it feels, but that's not necessarily how it really is. Figuring out how to play with these difficult aspects without either like without making them more serious than they are, or without trying to avoid them. That's really the task that falls upon all of us right now. And trying to find a way to let the carrot and the stick both be in the picture without either one of them dominating the picture. That's always a good thing to try to learn how to do, but never more so than now. That's particularly for this full moon right now. The earth signs in particular, that would be Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, you have good aspects happening. So there are opportunities, there are ways that you can like try to focus on the positive in the picture, because there's bound to be something positive. It is also the case that Mercury is in retrograde and is aspected by the full moon. So all of those Mercury retrograde issues, from scheduling and communication and travel issues, those things are like full blown right now. Could not be more so. But enough about this full moon. Let's look just a tiny bit at the year ahead. In this coming year, we don't have any major planetary, outer planetary aspects, as we have had for the past few years, that kind of signify some particular issue that all of society is kind of like having to deal with. But in the next 2 years, 3 of the outer planets are going to be changing sign. And this is definitely signifies a shift, a social shift. And we get the first taste of that social shift this year with Pluto entering Aquarius, which happens in March. Pluto enters Aquarius and is there until the beginning of June, when it goes back into Capricorn, and it enters Aquarius for good in the beginning of 2024. Some astrologers like to talk about Pluto entering Aquarius as the beginning of the age of Aquarius and some sort of universally positive entrance into the light. It is, of course, the case that any planetary shift is good for some and bad for others, and this is no different from that. Aquarius is an air sign. It is a fixed air sign, and it's known for kind of group ideology, which of course that can also be group think, like everybody has to think the same way or be the same way. Even if it's like my different iconoclastic way, everyone has to think that way. I think with some of the polarization that we've been dealing with in our society, finding out how to have a more inclusive view of what it means to be a group of people trying to do something together, living, is certainly something that Pluto can be pushing us towards. Pluto also represents, the things that we might prefer to keep hidden. One big thing that is usually kept hidden is sex. And as we deal with more sort of gender dysphoria and a different approach towards gender and sexuality, Pluto in Aquarius is definitely significant of the need to face these kinds of issues and look at them, with open eyes, rather than attempting to kind of like, push everything down or try to make it one way that fits into a traditional, that would be more Capricornian, a traditional idea of how these things should be, has to open up into something a little bit more iconoclastic, a little bit more different, what might seem to be unusual from the perspective of the earth sign of Capricorn. Coming up, we also have Saturn moving into the sign of Pisces, moving from Aquarius into the sign of Pisces, but we'll talk about what that means perhaps next time. For this time, I think just try to focus on making it through this particular lunar cycle. It might be easier to think about the year ahead and what you really want in a couple of weeks when we have the new moon. In Aquarius. So try not to let either the stick dominate, even though it will probably be trying to for most of us, and don't try to avoid it thinking that like it can all be carrots either, because both of them exist in the picture, but neither one of them is the picture. All right, take care. Next time I will talk a little bit more about the year ahead for each of the signs. Good luck and talk to you soon. Bye.